Hey everyone, welcome back to Casey 3D Sparks. Today we're going to be starting a campsite scenery set. I thought that'd be kind of cool, take a little break from the dungeon and just do something a little different. So to start off, we're gonna do kind of like a larger, either kind of like more regal looking larger square tent. To start off, I thought it'd be cool to do just like a larger square tent, and then maybe next week we'll go into the smaller, more typical triangle kind of campsite tents. But for today, we are just going to go ahead and start with our default cube. Make sure that when you get your scene open, you'll go into your scene tab and work in whichever unit of measure you prefer. I'm going to be working in inches, and I did change the scale of my grid floor to 1/4 of an inch. Now, for our cube, the default one that's popped in is at 6 inches, which is way too large. I'm probably going to put this at around 2.5 inches just to start off, and of course we can always adjust later, but I feel like this is a good starting point. Just press period to focus in on that, and I'm just going to go ahead and tab into edit mode. Now to start off, I want to go ahead and get the point of the tent set up first, so I'm just going to go ahead and go down here and select face select, right click on this top face, and I'm just going to do Alt P to make that come to a point. Now if you want, you can hit F6 and adjust this way, but since it does max out at 1 inch and I needed to go higher than that, I'm just going to go ahead and switch back to vertex select mode, go into front view, grab that vertex, and I want it to be a little bit higher, so maybe on this 3rd grid square above that probably looks around good. Of course, do what you feel is best. Now, I want to go ahead and do Control R, and when you see the pink line there, I'm just going to go ahead and scroll up so we have 6 loops. Just go ahead and left click, right click, so that way it stays there. I'm just going to pan to the right a little bit and do Control R, scroll up, so we have 6 loops again. And then I'm going to go ahead and do Control R, so we get the horizontal pink line. Scroll up once, so we get 2 loops here. Drag those up a little bit, maybe around here. Alt right click this loop here. Use the Z axis to drag that up about here. Then I'm going to switch back to face select mode. Do right click and shift right click every other one on each side. So just shift right click. So we grab them all together, and then I'm going to hold shift and also alt and right click this loop as well. We're just going to hit E to let that extrude. I'm going to right click so it stays in place. I'll just go into top view, or you can kind of look at an angled view, whichever you prefer. And we're just going to hit S, but you'll notice it kind of goes a little crazy. So we're going to do S and shift Z because we only want it to scale outwards and not upwards. So we'll probably go around there. Probably looks pretty good. Before we get too far, I'm going to go ahead and go over to our modifier tab and do a subdivision surface. I usually like to crank this up to 3, personal preference, but I usually find 3 works out pretty nicely. Now actually, I'm going to go ahead and select everything with A and do Shift E to sharpen that all the way back up. And then I'm just going to unsharpen a few select edges. So I'm going to go ahead and select this loop just by Alt right clicking, Shift E, and slowly just turn that down a little bit. So that way you can see you start to get these ridge pieces. So it actually kind of does some of the work for you for adding in some of the detail. Now I'm actually also going to grab these same ones that we extruded and do Shift E and push those back in and unsharpen those a little bit to make that a little bit softer and a little bit more kind of like material moving in the wind or something like that. Just going to go back into front view, and we're going to do Control R again so we can add a center loop here so we can get the opening of our door. I'm going to go ahead with edge select on. We're going to go ahead and grab this edge here and just hit V to rip that. And then we're just going to pull that over along the X and go ahead and grab the other one, push that over as well. So that way we get the hole for our tent. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do Control-7 so I can look at the bottom of our tent, because what I want to do is hollow this out so it uses way less plastic, especially if you decide to upload this to like Shapeways or something. You'll want to make sure it's hollowed out so it doesn't use as much material. So I'm going to switch back to face select mode and just border select these inner faces here. Go back into front view, E to extrude, pull that up, and I'm going to drag it till it meets these dots here, just like that. So now you can see it's nice and hollow there. And what we'll actually do from there is grab this edge again, and we're just going to do the same thing as before. So V to rip and just make it match what we have on the outside. Now this basically matches the outside, except there is an extra loop here. So what we want to do is do Control R and just drag this up to match that. Perfect. The other thing is we'll want to go ahead, grab this vertex and pull this forward. Okay. Now we don't want these to be hollow, so we do need to go ahead and close these off. So I'm going to go ahead and select these two bottom vertices as well as these two and hit F to face that off. Just going to scroll in a little bit. F to face that off. Don't forget the other side. Face that off. Face that off, and you'll notice that there's still kind of an awkward hole right here. All we have to do to finish that part is I'm going to select these three vertices where the hole is, do Alt M at center, and that will seal that off for us. Okay, and I also want to go ahead, while that's still selected, go ahead and shift right click this vertex as well and do Shift E so we can get a nice crisp opening at the top. And of course, you can always sharpen up more of these edges, but I want that to kind of look like it's draped open anyway. So I'm just going to leave it as is. Cool, so there's the basis of it. I want to add a flag as well. So if we do Shift A, mesh, and do cylinder, it's a little large, so we're just going to go ahead and size that down. Pull that up, do S, and then Shift Z. And I am going to need it to be a little bit thicker than normal, just so that way when we go to print it, it won't have any issues. I'm just going to tab into edit mode. Go ahead, do Control R and just add a loop there. I just left click, right click. 3 to go to the side view. I'm just going to go ahead and select most of these faces, so maybe something like that. I'm not being precise with it, just enough so that way we can go ahead. I'm going to go into top view, do E to extrude, and just pull that out to about there. Maybe E to extrude again, grab that out, pull that down to there, and I'm just going to do S and Z. Control R, pull that up. Something like that. I'm going to add modifier, subdivision surface. Flag's a little large, so I might size it down. To match the scale of our tent. More like that. But it should be plenty thick enough so that way we can print it. So I'm going to grab this loop here, Shift E to get that to flatten out. And there we go. Let's go ahead. I want to do select both, so just A. Control A, rotation and scale and location. I'm just gonna go ahead and duplicate our tent real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and unhide the other flag that ended up looking a little bit nicer. And we'll go ahead and hide our original cube. So we'll just go ahead and rename this to tent. I'm gonna apply our subdivision surface modifier, do Boolean, switch this to union. We can just use this little eyedropper tool here to select our flag. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and hide it, make sure it looks okay. Hit apply, and then I'm just going to go into edit mode to make sure nothing crazy happened, which it looks like it worked out perfectly. There we go. So there is the beginning of our campsite. So of course you could use this one as more of a military style tent if you are interested, or just an upscale tent for your campaigns, for your parties campsite. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick tutorial. I hope you guys are interested in more videos like these. Don't forget you can of course ask questions or leave requests or anything like that down in the comments below, and I do have a Discord link as well if you need faster responses. But other than that, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week.